My name's Saskia. I'm the founder and executive director of the Institute for Art and Olfaction. We're a nonprofit devoted to experimentation and access in the field of perfume. Today, I'm thrilled to invite Ernesto Collado, who's both a perfumer and my friend. Ernesto is an unconventional perfumery, but before that, he had an important career as a theater maker and contemporary artist. Ernesto always swam against the current, fleeing from any type of label. This is true. Grandson of one of the most popular Spanish chemists, perfumers, and natural essential oils producers in the beginning of the 20th century, Ernesto inherited an exceptional olfactory sensitivity and an unconditional love for plants. He was educated in Grasse. He completed his perfumery studies working with essential oil producers and old pupils from his grandfather. He's a self-taught botanist, an avid poetry and philosophy reader, and a passionate communicator, as you'll find out. He has turned all his eccentric creativity and never-ending fascination for nature into his brand/lifestyle BRAVANARIZ, based in Spain. So Ernesto, I'd like to start this chat sort of by asking you about your background, your career background. And I know you don't love talking about it, but I think it's actually kind of important to who you are. So tell us a little bit about what you were doing in Barcelona before you discovered perfumery.
Well, I may say that I had until now three lives. When I was very young, I was let's say a guy from uptown, from the upper side of town. So I had a very pleasant life, and in a certain moment, I wanted to break with that. I was watching too many things going on in the world for me to be just around friends and doing that kind of stuff around swimming pools in Barcelona. So I decided to break with my family tradition and with everything around me and start to do something that it could really bother my father, especially. We used to do these things when we are teenagers. So I decided to start with theater. My surprise was that theater became my life, my passion, and it happened to be something that I knew how to do. I had already like a kind of a poetic sense of life, and with theater, I found the vehicle in order to make love to life. And this is what I did already for 23 years. As you said, I always hated labels. I still hate it. And I always tried that nobody could label me, even in theater, in perfumery, whatever I do, because I think it's a stupid thing to do. And in theater especially, I was quite a disruptive kind of theater creator. I did my own pieces, so I always, as you said, swam against the stream, but not only against the stream, I also swam against my own, let's say, contemporary theater creator friends. I was a kind of a not very comfortable, how to say, collaborator, because I was very critic, and I always thought that theater was a nice way to try to let people see life from a different perspective. So for me, art was a way to change people's perception or perspective in life, in society, in politics, in philosophy. So this made me a little bit annoying, let's say, within the creators groups, because I was very critic with this kind of, all this contemporary world that goes around the contemporary artists. Contemporary art sometimes can become a pain in the ass, and especially when it becomes, let's say, fashionable, and it becomes something nice, and it becomes something great to be around. If this happens, it means it's dead. This is my idea. So I really brought this idea into theater contemporary creation here in Spain. And this gave me a lot of satisfactions from one side, but also a lot of deceptions with my own colleagues, with the ambience that I was around. So after 23 years, I felt a little bit disappointed. I really wanted to do theater, to arrive to people, and suddenly I was, in this kind of elite of contemporary, we say gafapasta, all these people with these thick glasses like the ones I'm wearing right now.
These?
In fact, this is a kind of, yes, we are, you know the kind, we are still this kind of people. But I somehow felt like, okay, I want to arrive to somebody else. I want, people like us, we already have our souls and our minds shaped. We are constantly looking for our minds to be shaped. So there is no sense for me to do theater for people who is already shaped. I was looking for people who could be shaped from scratch. And this I couldn't find in the contemporary creation. So I was in crisis. And this was when I started suffering from this illness that you already know, Saskia, which is called phantosmia. So I lost my sense of smell for almost 2.5 years. And the rest of the story, you all know. I'm now a perfumer, and I'm founder and CEO of BRAVANARIZ, which is, as you said, much more than just a natural niche perfumery brand. It's a way of placing myself in life, and this is what I'm trying to do with other people.
Well, so Ernesto, let's talk about that transition. So you got phantosmia, as you mentioned. For those who aren't familiar, can you explain how that manifested and what it did to you?
Well, phantosmia is a very rare class of anosmia, but at the end is completely loss of smell, which this is what anosmia stands for. The particular thing about phantosmia is that you do smell something, which is just one thing, but this is not real. It's an olfactory hallucination. It's a smell that is created by your brain. So you are constantly smelling something, but it's the same thing, and it's not real. So in a way, you are absolutely disconnected from life. You are disconnected from the rest of the world. And you are only smelling what your brain is making up. So it's quite annoying. Usually, phantosmia, the smell, the hallucination, is not a pleasant smell. In fact, it can end up being something that is called cacosmia. And for the ones that know a little bit Latin, they should know that this literally means
poop smell.
Shit smell.
Yeah. I've had phantosmia. I had it after COVID, and everything smelled like gasoline. And I still get it maybe once every 3-4 months. I get a little whiff, typically on an airplane, actually, which is
No, there are many. In fact, there are many, let's say, labels. After COVID, there is a lot of people who had an infection, and this infection also can cause an alteration of your perception of smell. So sometimes there are some notes that are stick there, usually bad smells. So your case, for example, probably was something like that. But phantosmia is something different because it means that there is a neurological damage, usually produced by a car accident, an intent of suicide. So it's always caused by a huge trauma in the head, which was not my case. Of course, I would have noticed. And the other possibility is worse, because it means that it's a beginning of Alzheimer, Parkinson, or a brain tumor, which luckily was not my case.
So what caused yours? Do you know? Was there any reason, or was it?
No, there is no real reason. My neurologist always gave me this version, which is beautiful. I have to say that it's like so beautiful that I don't buy it. And he said that probably when, as I said, my grandfather was a great nose, and he really had an incredible sense of smell, very sensitive. So when my father and my uncles were around, my grandfather was looking for the one who should inherit that ability. But none of my uncles or my father did. So the pressure then was on the grandsons. And when I was 4 years old, my grandfather pointed at me. So from then on, in my family, every day I was expected to be smelling and recognizing smells. So they were passing me all these mouillettes with all these essential oils and telling me, okay, what do you smell? Do you recognize this? And of course, as I told you, I'm a rebel from birth. And I started to say, well, you know, everything smells like shit. This is like shit. I don't like it. So
I
this
can
is
only
how I
imagine your
grew
poor
up.
grandfather was like, come on, Ernesto.
No, my grandfather died when I was 8. So
Okay, your
he really
parents.
never knew that I was
A rebel.
probably somebody. I mean, he never knew that he was not right.
Right.
But the neurologist, what he said was, my theory is your grandfather was right. He should have seen something that the others didn't. And then since your senses get at, let's say, 100% of their evolution between 4 and 6 years old, well, smell is an exception, as I think you all know. The sense of smell is 100% developed already in the womb. At the 12th week of pregnancy, our sense of smell is already at its 100% function, but the rest of the senses don't. So when everything is labeled, let's say it's between 4, 6, 8 years old. So my neurologist said, probably you really had a very sensitive sense of smell, but then it got stuck, it got saturated. So I lived all my youth and my childhood really thinking that I had a terrible sense of smell. And then after the phantosmia, when I recovered my sense of smell and I really smelled things that I never thought that anybody could smell before, my neurologist made up this theory, which is very beautiful. But sincerely, I don't think
You
it's
don't
true.
buy
I
it.
think there must be another reason.
Huh. Well, so how did this phantosmia influence your creative process? Like what happened next once you
Well, it's a good question. And you know that never anybody asked me that question. Uh,
well, I'm very
because
smart.
it's quite an obvious thing to me, you know, somebody who is a perfumer but suffers from phantosmia, because phantosmia, it doesn't disappear completely. I mean, I still have some crisis when I'm very tired in
Yeah.
my head, in my mind. So the answer is, since I have this, let's say, fear about getting back to the phantosmia, I really take care about what I smell. And I do it very carefully. I try not to saturate myself. So when I'm working, I never work more than, let's say, half an hour in a row on a perfume. I always stop. I get out of my studio. I come back. So for me, when I'm really working and I'm formulating, or I'm working in a scent, even when I'm outside in nature, I tried I try to go very slowly. And when we say in BRAVANARIZ that time is the most important of our ingredients in making perfumes, I mean, it's true. It's literal. I need a lot of time, much more time than any regular perfumer, because otherwise I get sick of it.
Hmm.
So this really, this phantosmia thing, it really affects the way I work and also the way I see not only perfumery, but also how I perceive the world. Huh? Because the world is full of smells. It's constantly smelling. If it doesn't smell, it means or that we are dead or that the rest of our environment is dead. So since all the time smells are there, being aware of that for me sometimes can become something very, very stressful. So I try to breathe a lot, to take my time, and I don't know, to try to have a very pleasant relationship with anything that has to do with smell.
So let's talk a little bit about BRAVANARIZ. So on your website, you have a manifesto, and in your manifesto, you have a couple statements that sort of stuck out for me. One is you said BRAVANARIZ are the places in the plants, and then, and this is actually at the beginning of the manifesto, you start it by asking how to be nature. That was my first question. So tell us a little bit about nature and how nature played into the formation of I don't know I don't know if I can call it it's a brand of the BRAVANARIZ experience.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice. You put it well.
Yeah, thanks.
Well, nature is everything in BRAVANARIZ. I mean, it's the beginning and it's the final objective. So this is why, for me, the question how to be nature or how to be landscape. For me, the answer it's already there. We are nature. All of us, we are nature. All the tablets or computers that we're using now to be connected are a product of nature. Our towns where we live, the planes that we take to travel around, all these things are nature. Because from my point of view, all these things are a product of our imagination, of our creativity and intelligence. And all those things are a product of nature. So for me, there is no real border between what is nature and what is human, or what is artificial. But which, by the way, artificial, if you go to the Latin root, means made with art. Ficho, hacer con arte. So for me, the answer is it's already there, but the question is still very powerful. Because if we could ask ourselves how to become nature, which we already are, we probably will arrive to the answer. But in the way, in the getting to the answer, we will go through a path that will lead us to something much more empathetic. Sorry, what is the expression?
Empathetic, maybe?
Empathetic with others, starting with us, but with others from, let's say, the humankind, but also with the non-human kinds that we have around, which are a lot. And I'm including stones, mountains, rivers, oceans. They are also beings, in a way, from my point of view. Of course, everything that I will telling you is my point of view.
Okay, but your point of view, I mean, what you're talking about is a sense of animism, right? That everything is alive and it, very familiar to those of us in the Western United States, because of course, Native American and Canadian First People, to a degree, some of them had that belief as well. So if everything is nature and everything is natural in its own way, how do you interact with the idea of the synthetic in perfumery? Because I know you work with things that are found in nature exclusively.
Yes.
How do you make sense of synthetics then? I mean, are they also to a degree something that's natural?
No, yes, of course.
Yeah. Okay.
Look, you are arriving to the point which is for me always like interesting to talk about. For me, synthetic essential oils are just a synthesis of the natural version. So it's something that again comes from our capability to create things, and they are also nature, and they are inspired in nature. And of course, we have the natural identicals and all that stuff that we remember with Spiros we were talking the other day. Yeah. So for me, I mean, you will never hear from myself that synthetics are bad, naturals are good. My choice to work only with naturals is because my goal is to capture the essence of the landscapes that I love. Yeah. And the first decision that I took was, okay, to do this, I'm only going to work with the plants that grow naturally in the landscapes that I want to capture. And this is it. So for me, it's a must. It's not just let's say, like a green kind of natural flag that I use to sell my stuff. In fact, I'm really, really upset about all this greenwashing that we are sensing and we are watching, especially in the cosmetic industry and in the perfumery industry too. So I don't talk too much about BRAVANARIZ being 100% natural, because for me this is something that is obvious. Because, as I told you, my goal is not to create a wonderful, amazing, and successful perfume, but about really being able to capture, to literally put the landscape in a bottle. And how I do know that this is achieved? Well, for me, it's the people who tells me that, not me.
Mm.
If I achieve that, it's not me who has to say it, it's the people who, by using these perfumes, can connect deeply and intimately with their environments, with nature, with themselves. And I can tell you, after 10 years already working and having many people in love with the brand around the world, that I see that it works. Because, as I said, the sense of smell is so primitive, so intuitive. It's our most animal sense, that I can't think about a better vehicle in order to reconnect with nature and with our environment than the sense of smell. So this is how BRAVANARIZ started. If I could only bottle these wonderful places that move me and share these with other people in order for them to also connect with that environment, then I'm the happiest man in the man.
I actually have a question about
I'm the
that.
happiest man in the mood, which is very easy because there are very few people there.
There's no people on the moon currently. I have a question about
We
this
don't know.
because,
We don't know.
well, well, okay. I'm pretty sure we know. I'm pretty sure there's no people on the moon right now. Oh,
Me
wait,
too.
maybe. No, yeah, I don't know.
No. There's no people. There's
There might be
something.
some spirits or something. I have a question, and this isn't meant as a critique. This is a genuine curiosity because, you and I obviously know each other. I've heard you speak about your work a lot, and I know that this impulse to capture the landscape, which, for those who haven't been, some of us have been fortunate enough to go, but it's quite beautiful up there in northern Spain. I guess my question is sort of why? Like, what drives your desire to capture the landscape in that way? And then also, what are the limits of that practice? Like, is there something that you find just is inherently uncapturable in certain terms of scent, but also in terms of vibe or energy or something? I mean,
Yeah.
why are you doing this? What's the point, I guess?
You are always making the right questions. This is very important. When I started, well, to start with, why do I do it? Why would I like to capture the essence of the landscape? Well, first of all, because the landscape saved me. It was plants or through plants that I recovered my sense of smell. And with my sense of smell, I recover the sensuality and the pleasure for life. I'm lucky to say that I was not depressed. I don't think I have the time to be depressed at that moment. I have 3 kids, and for me, I mean, it was to well, I don't know why I didn't got depressed, but I was really, really lost. I lost contact with life. So when I recovered my sense of smell, I was so grateful to plants and to nature and to the aromas that nature produces, that I felt like I had to do something with that. And this is the reason why. And I started to doing it at home, distilling barks and resins and plants that I found, and I shared it with the people I loved, and everybody was asking me for more. So this is really how it started. I never really thought about making a perfumery brand. It started like something I did at home in the kitchen, and then people seemed to really, really need it and to really liked it. So this is the reason. And the limits, this is very important. Of course, when I started, I thought that I could do everything with wild harvested plants. But this, of course, lead me to the first question. Okay, be careful, Ernesto. Can you do this without harming the balance, the natural balance in the landscape? Are you going for love of the landscape, going to destroy it by just harvesting massively these plants and making a product that, let's say it's not a first need product? So this really got me, like, I shouldn't do this, or yes or not. But then I contact a biologist, environmentalist, very important one, who worked with some of the most important natural parks around the area, Sandra Saura Mas. And with her, we worked for 6 months in the area, really trying to understand which were the aromatic plants that we could use, in which way, in which quantity, and which ones were absolutely, out of the system. Which ones were, okay, you can't touch this because. So this gave me this, what we call the sustainable wild harvesting protocol, which we designed together. And this for us is like a guideline for BRAVANARIZ for all our harvesting actions. So to answer you, the limits are there, of course, and the limits have to do always with the natural limits, which is, for example, there is something that it's common sense. But unfortunately, common sense is the less common of our senses. So since we are all lack common sense, I needed a real scientific guide for me to work with. And this is what we do. And for example, to explain you, rosemary and thyme, they are harvested in completely different ways. Rosemary, you can harvest any time of the year just by cutting the tips of the plant. And this is really like you are reinforcing the plant. But thyme, okay, thyme, it doesn't. It has a very slow growth. So when you want to harvest thyme, you always choose one plant from every 5, and then you take it all out. For example, this is one example, but with every single plant is different. And another measure that we use, for example, we never harvest in the very same spot. So, for example, in the region, we have 5 different farms where we harvest, and every farm, 7, and every farm has 5 different areas that we go year after year. So we only go again to the same spot after 5 years, which is enough time for that spot to recover from the last harvest. Just to mention some of the measures that we use. Okay.
Yeah, that's awesome. It also reminds me a little bit, it's in line with this idea that has been quite extensively proposed by the great Mandy Aftel, this idea of slow perfume and just not making more than the world can accommodate, which is so contrary to the fragrance industry.
Well, but now you're getting to the real controversial point.
Right.
It's not a matter of what we use or what we do. It's a matter of how much we consume.
Yeah.
The responsibility it's in the consumption. We use too much of everything, and for me this should be the question, which puts me always in a terrible situation, because of course as a brand you want to sell you want to sell as much as you can,
of course,
but at the same time you don't want this to happen. Yeah. There is something I can assure you, Saskia, and there is a lot of people here witnessing this. There is the moment where I have to produce in a quantity that this would really disrupt or really break the equilibrium that now I do have with BRAVANARIZ production. I will quit producing.
Yeah.
For sure, because it will be too I mean, I would not be able to sell that stuff anymore because
Yeah.
I will not believe in that.
Yeah. It would be
So
contrary to your ethics and your entire, raison d'être, as it were. So I understand that.
no,
And
no,
I believe
yes,
it
totally.
actually. Yeah.
And it's in my way of thinking, it will be the natural evolution of the brand. So okay, it arrives to a point where okay, it's too much. So the brand can't exist. For example, one of the measures that I already thought about is okay, stop selling online. And so people
Yeah.
want to buy my perfumes, they have to come to Spain, which is a beautiful thing to do. I invite everybody to come to Masfleque. They can stay there for a while. They can test all our perfumes, really understand where they come from and understand the landscape where they have been made, and then buy them. So this probably will be a first step, and then the last step, stop producing, of course.
Yeah, because one of the reasons I'm really interested in your work is it's similar to my work in that we tread this fine line between intention and capitalism, you know. I mean, the Institute is a capitalist endeavor in that we sell classes, you know, there's no denying that, but the intention is obviously something else. And you, same, you know, the intention is to be in touch with nature, to capture landscape, to preserve something that may be lost in 100 years, but also you're operating in the real world and there's this capitalist reality. So you know, the first time I met you, we were at Milan in Essence, which is, I don't know if anybody hasn't been, it's this massive room underground filled with people hawking their wares. You know, it's gold and it's smelly and it's flashy and everyone's selling their perfume. And I meet this guy, Ernesto, and he's clearly an outlier. He clearly doesn't make sense. There's an incongruity to him even being there as there is with myself. So, you know, I guess the question that's kind of profiling between all this blah blah is that there's a question of how you interact or how you feel about perfume as a whole, you know, as a product, what's lost in that sort of product orientation and what's gained. Is that even a question?
No, no,
Is this
I know you
common?
get Saskia because we talked a lot about that, and well, it's difficult. It's really difficult to let's say to positionate yourself in these matters, because what we know about perfumery, what we massively know, it's you know the industry, but the industry has nothing to do with us, Saskia, nor with you or with me. We are in the industry because it's the only, let's say, channel that we have in order to arrive to people. But the motor of what we do is different. The process is drastically different. And the objective and the kind of people you are focusing to or aiming to is completely different. So, but at the same time, we are there. As you said, we were in Milano and we both were saying, I feel like a fish out of the water here. And this is what we feel every year that we go there. But we still keep going because the only way is the only way for us to survive. But what is also true is that we are here talking, you and I, because we met in this different sensitivity about what a perfume is. And I go to the question that I think you made, which is what means a perfume for you? If you ask to me about all these, let's say, let's make it easy. The industry, perfumery. For me, perfumery is nothing. It's just a luxury item. Luxury. It's already a concept that it's outrageous. I think it's in the world that we're living right now, talking about luxury like people used to think about luxury is something that it's out of any mind. We have so many global problems nowadays that luxury for me, it would be that everybody's conscience would be absolutely open and let's say poured into what is really important now, which is to be together. We should be thinking about a global community to face all the global problems that we will have to face, we have to face already now. So, sorry, I'm getting too social and political here. But what I'm trying to say is that if you ask me what is a perfume for you, if we think about a perfume as a luxury item, I give a shit about perfumery. But if we think about the perfume as a way to transcend, as a way to bring your senses and your sensibility and your emotions to somewhere else, if we think about perfumery as an art capable to move us and to transform us, then I'm deeply with perfumery and deeply with the perfume. And I think a perfume can do all this. Otherwise, I wouldn't be talking to you right now, and I wouldn't be creating perfumes, you know? So it's always about not the object, but about the goal, how you start doing this, the process, and who are you aiming to, or what are you aiming to with what you're doing. And we could say this, Saskia, with all art. What is art? If we talk about, again,
Totally.
the art, the commerce of art, the business of art, I give a shit about art.
Yeah, totally.
Because it's all bullshit. But if we talk about the need to express ourselves, to communicate to ourselves, to make souls, okay, then art is fantastic. I think the problem is always when we try to make from something that really moves us our business. And this is the main problem. You see, for example, now with theater and with poetry, I don't pretend to make any money with that. And I just enjoy it. And you know what I do now? I read poetry. I'm a consumer of poetry, and I enjoy it so much. And I don't have any conflict there. In the moment where we decide that our passion can be something that we can make our living out of it, then
and yet look at us, because that's what we're doing. You know, I mean, that's the thing. I agree with you so much. And when I was working in film, I wrote an essay called, you know, don't quit your day job, like making this point, like forget trying to make film your career, do it for the passion, the art. But then we live in the real world, you know, Ernesto, and, you know, I have bills, and I wasn't raised affluent, and neither were you. So I just feel like that fundamental challenge between being true to the artistry of it, but also surviving in a difficult world, a capitalist world, a world that is set up to keep us not surviving, it is the fundamental issue, you know. So, but my question, I think maybe my closing question before we open it up to the to our friends is, where do you, with all this in mind, where do you see BRAVANARIZ evolving? How do you see this evolving in the next 10 years or so? And I know that you've been talking about doing more experiences at Masfleke. Would you mind telling folks about that a little bit?
Well, yes. I think the brand is clearly evolving to creating olfactory experiences that can really transform people. So as you see, I'm already moving to a place or to an area or to a space that it's not focused on the product, but on the experience, on having time, on spending time, practicing and using our noses. So, for example, one of the things that we are now very strong at is in our workshops. You already know, you have been part of one of our most successful workshops this month of June, together with Spiros. And it's amazing. It's amazing to be able to, for example, to pour all these questions to people who's starting in the perfumery world and that probably wants to become a perfumer, and to really be able in that very, let's say, initiative moment to get them into the, I would say, the right path, but it's too
no, I know what you mean. To influence in a positive manner, according to our morals. In a positive
manner, yes. No? And yes, for example, now in September, we are doing another workshop with Marina Barcenilla on natural perfumery. It's going to be held at the end of September. There are still some places, I think 2 or 3. And next year, as you know, we will repeat with our arts and craft perfumery workshops. So the workshops are becoming a very, let's say, important part of BRAVANARIZ. And the reason why is because there is not this kind of workshops really in the world. I remember when we were talking about this, when I wanted to learn, I never found such an open and wide course where you could go really from the intimate encounter with the plant in its own environment, really understanding the plant, the place where where the plant has been growing, passing through all the extraction techniques, going to the formulation, also understanding about the social importance of perfumery, the historical importance of perfumery. So this wide overview over the perfumery world and the scent, whatever it does it mean, you can't find it or not that much. So we, as a brand, we really see that there is a gap there, and we are trying to save this gap with professionals like you, like Spiros, like Marina, and this is what we're doing. And also in Mas Fleque, it's not just that you can come and have an experience. You can just stay there and spend some time. And really, you will notice that time has another pace, and that everything arrives in a different way, and that your sense of smell slowly will really adapt to this different ambiance. And I love to imagine Mas Fleque as a kind of a spa for your nose.
That's nicely put. And for those who aren't familiar, Mas Fleque is Ernesto's, I don't know what to call it, a farm, a finca. What is it?
It is a farm.
It's a farm. Okay, and it's about an hour and a half north of Barcelona by train, and it's in the middle of nature, and it's quite lovely. I want to just open it up to the audience. If anybody has any questions for Ernesto, we have about 10 more minutes before we're going to let him get ready for his vacation. But going once, going twice. Questions, or comments, or thoughts?
So I've got 3. So this might be a little dense, but you mentioned acreage, and you have relationships with some of the farmers. What size are the farms, and what are the relationships you have in terms of the ability to ask them to contract grow certain herbs or plants? I think that's interesting. You didn't totally clarify whether you 100% use everything you distill on farm.
Shall I answer the first one? Because it's very good question, and it's very practical. I have private contracts of wild harvesting with every single owner of the farms. And we always go with this sustainable harvesting protocol, which already tells which plants are we going to harvest in which quantity a year. So they agree with this. We sign it every year because we are constantly revisiting all these, let's say, all these guidelines in order to really understand how all our actions are affecting the farm. So if everything is okay in the place, we keep with the same contract. If we feel like we have to change something, whether it's the owner who wants to change something or we want to change something, we do. Just usually it's from our side. Farmers are always happy. And this is how it goes. The size of the farms are quite huge for our area. In Spain, we have a massive amount of latifundios from, let's say, 5,000 hectares to 16,000 hectares. Spain is not well known for their own very huge farms, but here in Catalonia, we don't have these big farms. So the biggest farm that I'm working with, it's around 1,200, but this is the biggest, it's an exception. And then usually there are 180 hectares, 200 hectares with a lot of forest, because I'm always searching for really wild farms with a lot of wild vegetation. And then my farm is very small. It's 9 hectares. So this is what we do. This is answering your first question. And the second one, it's no. One of the first things I learned with this 6-month study is that it was completely impossible to do all the things that I wanted to do only with wild harvested plants. So what we do is we only use the plants that are more massively present in the landscape. Okay, and the rest we work with local producers and the closest that we can from the region. So I work with some people in the southern part of France, also from the southern part of Spain. But this is it. I try not to work with producers, for example, from Romania or from not because I don't like them. It's just to keep it really, really local and to try to work with the subspecies of plants that really grow in our landscape.
And then there's a third question,
And
David?
you had a third one.
Yes. So how that ties into distillation, your cadence, and that ties back into the acreage or the amount of land you're using and your schedule with distillation. What is the result volume-wise? You know, what's the amount of ground that you're using? And that's maybe more ambiguous, but the size of your still, the cadence of your distillations, and then the result.
Okay.
Yield.
I have several stills. Some are what I call the moving stills. I have a 30 liters inox still that I use to move, and when I go for expeditions to see other farms or to find another landscape, or for example when they ask me to make a perfume for a winery and they want me to I go for 2-3 days to the landscape and I bring my own still. Okay, so this is what I call them the lab still. And then I have several others, but the ones that I use for productions are 250 liter. I have 2 of them, so I distill together. And I never use more than, let's say, 100 kilos of plant. So I'm quite respectuous with the landscape. You have to understand that I finally only produce 4-5 essential oils, which is rosemary, Spanish lavender, fennel, juniper, Juniperus oxyphelus, which is not the Juniperus communis, and cyprus. These are the 5 that I produce. But what I produce massively is hydrolates and tinctures. And the good thing about tinctures is that you don't need that much amount of plants. So with very little plant, you get a huge production of tinctures. And this is something basic in BRAVANARIZ. In BRAVANARIZ, we never start our formulations from a non-odorant alcoholic base. We always start from a very strong aromatic tinctures cord.
So that's your base. That's your base material. Just to clarify that further. So you make a tincture of, say, rosemary, and that's your foundation, and then you add to that. Is that correct?
And then we add scents to that.
Okay. So the alcohol, as it were, is scented.
Yes, this makes already all our perfumes quite exceptional.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's a very strong base.
Yes, and to close this, when we work with colognes or eau de cologne, in order to lower the alcoholic grade, we never use water. We always use hydrolates, which again gives a powerful aromatic mixture to everything.
Any other questions? We have about, I don't know, 2 more minutes. Oh, okay. Cici.
I was looking at your website about your lavender. Do you ever just work with lavender in a formal perfume where you don't include the lavandin or the spike lavender? Because I love to smell more lavender without the camphor note, and it's difficult for me to find lavender. And I'd love to spell your Spanish lavender. Actually, that'd be really lovely. Could you speak to that a little bit?
Yes. Well, when we entered the USA market, it was very curious to realize that, for example, with our colognes here in Spain and in Europe, the most popular one is the rosemary one. And this is quite cultural. But then in the United States, suddenly the lavender one, hit the nail. I mean, for me, it was a completely surprise. Then I realized that you guys in the United States, you are so massively bombed with the French lavender and with all these hybridations, because most of the ones that are used are artificially hybridations or humanly hybridations of lavender, as you already know, lavandin grosso, lavandin especial. So you don't really ever felt what a wild lavandula stoecas, which is the Spanish lavender, the wild lavender is. So, but I have to tell you that our lavender cologne has a Spanish lavender tincture, so the alcoholic base is strongly lavender, Spanish lavender hydrolate, but it does have some lavandula angustifolia, which is called espliego, which is the other wild lavender that we have in Spain. But we don't use let's say all the other ones, lavandin, grossos, etc., etc. So a way for you to try would be to try our cologne. But of course, what I would tell you is you have to come to Masflequet and get your nose in our barrels of Spanish lavender tincture, and then you will realize what it is. Or just smell the plant right from there. It's
along with
really
the many bees.
Yeah. Because it has nothing to do with the French lavender, as you say. It's rounder. It has something more. It's more grounded in a way. And the French lavender, it's too sharp. Sometimes it has this kind of thing that it's a little bit edgy somehow. And the Spanish lavender is rounder. It's softer, but at the same time with a greater personality, from my point of view, of course.
Because we have to shut this down fairly soon, Ernesto, I have a question which is more, pragmatic and capitalist in nature. But for those of us here in the States, which I'm guessing quite a few of us are, where would one encounter your work? Where could one?
Well, as you know now, this is very problematic for us to get to you.
Yeah.
There is
still tariffs or?
Yeah, but there is still Ministry of Scent and Lucky Scent, which they used to have my products. I don't know if they are out of stock or what, because of course, for a long time, they are having problems to buy again. So, but I think Ministry of Scent still has quite a lot of what we have. So I will check first there and then in Lucky Scent.
Yeah, and these are two wonderful groups to support. So
yeah,
and if I can just personally recommend, the rosemary cologne is top level in my opinion. Okay,
yes.
Everyone, thank you so much for your time. Yeah, delight to see those of you that I know and to meet those of you that I don't, and we'll see you all on the internet or in person somewhere in the world.
Thank you very much to everybody.